Watch the road. That tank you're looking at right now will not survive the next 90 seconds. Neither will the column behind it. This was supposed to be one of Russia's largest mechanized pushes in months. 2 armored columns, 50 infantry, 28 motorcycles, a coordinated pincer movement, timed for maximum symbolic effect. It launched on Russia Day. It failed before it ever reached the first line of defense. This is what that failure actually looked like, and what it tells us about where this war is heading. For months, the fighting around Sloviansk has been described in vague terms: pressure, probing attacks, slow grinding advances. What happened here was different. This was Russia attempting something bigger, a real breakthrough push against the outer defensive belt protecting the approaches to Sloviansk, specifically toward 2 settlements, Zakhitne and Kriva Luka. These are not just names on a map. They form part of the outer shield protecting Sloviansk itself. Lose them, and the routes toward the city's deeper defenses open up. That's exactly why Russia didn't send in a handful of infantry to probe the line. They committed real mechanized force, a tank, 3 infantry fighting vehicles, motorcycles to move fast across open ground, 7 additional vehicles in support, and critically, 2 columns moving at the same time on separate axes. One from the village of Platonivka toward Zakhitne, the other from the city of Siversk toward Kriva Luka. This is a pincer, a deliberate attempt to split Ukrainian attention, stretch drone coverage thin, and prevent defenders from concentrating fire on a single approach. On paper, this was a smart plan: 2 axes instead of 1. Armor to absorb fire while lighter elements push through. Motorcycles to cross open ground faster than any tracked vehicle could manage. Every element had a specific job, designed to make the assault more resilient than a single dense column. In theory, even if one vehicle went down, the rest of the formation could keep moving, spreading risk instead of concentrating it in one vulnerable mass. Let's establish exactly what we know happened, because the numbers here matter. According to Ukraine's 7th Air Assault Corps, Russian forces launched this assault over 2 full days in multiple waves. The attacking force included more than 50 servicemen, 1 tank, 3 infantry fighting vehicles, 7 military vehicles, and 28 motorcycles. The defenders were the 81st Separate Airmobile Brigade, working alongside the Apache Unmanned Systems Battalion. And here is the number that defines this entire engagement. Neither Russian assault group ever reached the first line of Ukrainian defense. Not partial success, not a costly stalemate, complete failure before contact. The Apache Battalion put it bluntly: the number of vehicles could not compensate for the most important factor: Ukrainian drone operators' complete control over the battlefield. So how exactly did a coordinated 2-axis mechanized assault collapse before it even reached its objective? This is where the footage becomes the story. Both Russian routes required crossing exposed approach roads, open ground with no real cover, fully visible from above. That single design flaw is what doomed the entire operation. Ukrainian reconnaissance spotted both columns early. Before the assault could build into a single coordinated push, drone teams were already tracking individual vehicles, slowing their advance, and striking them piece by piece. The motorcycles, and meant to move fast and avoid bunching into easy targets, instead became isolated targets themselves, picked off one at a time as the formation spread out. FPV drones struck the infantry fighting vehicles while they were still moving, catching them mid-advance before they could reach cover or link up with the rest of the assault. This is the detail worth sitting with. These were not stationary targets caught by surprise. These were moving combat vehicles under their own power, attempting active maneuver, and Ukrainian drone operators still found, tracked, and destroyed them in transit. That requires constant aerial coverage, fast communication between reconnaissance and strike teams, and split-second decision-making under pressure. None of that happens by accident. What should have been one continuous wave instead fractured into scattered fragments. Vehicles destroyed along the route. Other elements forced to push forward alone into exposed positions without support. Some motorcycles and vehicles were hit only after the advance had already stalled. Clear evidence the attack lost momentum well before any element reached Ukrainian lines. By the time the wrecks were burning along the approach roads, the real battle was already over. Ukraine had turned the access route itself into a kill zone, breaking the assault apart while it was still in motion, not at the point of contact, but on the way there. And this wasn't an isolated skirmish. According to Ukraine's general staff, the same period saw 13 separate Russian assaults across this sector, near Kaliniki and Zakitny, and toward Riznikivka, Kriva Luka, Mykolaiivka, and Ryo-Alexandrivka. This was a coordinated push across the entire outer defensive belt. Not one failed attack, but a wave of them, almost all producing the same result. Geolocated footage published the following day confirmed Ukrainian forces striking additional Russian vehicles along the same approach corridor, the highway connecting Siversk and Lyman, just south of Zakitny. The pattern holds. Vehicles exposed on open roads, drones finding them before they reach cover. Momentum lost before contact. Now place this single battle inside the bigger picture, because that's where it gets genuinely important. Sources close to the Kremlin reportedly believe Putin still expects to fully occupy Donetsk and Luhansk by autumn of this year, a deadline meant to strengthen Moscow's position heading into any future negotiations. But the Institute for the Study of War assessed, even before this attack, that Russian forces were struggling to make meaningful progress in this exact area, and that capturing the so-called fortress belt protecting eastern Ukraine's major cities was unlikely within that time frame. This battle is a live demonstration of exactly why. Here's what should genuinely concern Russian commanders watching this footage. This wasn't a small infantry probe that failed quietly. This was a real mechanized commitment. Armor, motorcycles, coordinated columns, real planning. And it still couldn't survive contact with Ukrainian drone coverage. That tells you something important about where this war actually stands. Russia still believes breakthrough requires mass, tanks, vehicles, concentrated force. But mass on open ground under constant aerial observation has become a liability rather than an advantage. Every additional vehicle in a column is one more target. Every motorcycle spreading out to avoid bunching is one more isolated point that drone operators can pick off individually, with no support nearby. If this pattern keeps repeating, and the data from this single week alone suggests it will, Russian commanders face a genuine dilemma. Continue launching large mechanized assaults that keep failing at growing cost, or shift towards smaller, less visible infiltration tactics that move slower but draw less attention from above. Neither option solves the fundamental problem. Ukrainian reconnaissance and strike coordination in this sector remains intact, fast, and lethal. Fast enough to detect, track, and destroy a coordinated two-axis assault before it ever reaches the line it was sent to break. And there's a deeper cost here that doesn't show up in any single battlefield report. Every mechanized assault that fails this completely burns through equipment Russia cannot easily replace at the same rate. Tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, trained crews. Infantry can be conscripted in large numbers. Armor and experienced operators cannot be manufactured or trained nearly as fast. Each failed push like this one quietly narrows Russia's options for the next one. Sloviansk's outer defenses held, not because Russia lacked equipment or ambition. They held because everything Russia sent down that road was visible long before it arrived.